And the St. Louis Blues are now alone in first overall in the National Hockey League.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get on your feet.
Watch me light the sky!
And he scores with an unbelievable one-handed tuck-in goal. And the Blues have tied the game on a highlight reel goal.
Watch me light the sky!
Shoots. Game winner. You can bring out the Zamboni.
All right, we ready? Here we go. All right, Blues Loungers, we're back with yet another Rinkside Podcast, but it is now new and improved. Why? It's not just me and Sean anymore. Now it's producer David and Johnny Hirschbuehler. We've got them all in here now, and this is going to make it even more interesting, more in-depth conversation, and get a lot of different angles and opinions on all this.
Probably
so after a
now. Yeah.
Yes. Or everything.
That was producer David.
More disagreements.
So we might as well just jump into it, gentlemen, with the collapse in the game this evening. And when I was watching the game to begin with, it looked solid. I mean, just seeing who was putting in goals and the lead we were starting to build, and Allen standing on his head, and then we just went to hell.
I didn't see much of.
I was mentioning earlier that I didn't actually get to watch this game tonight. I listened in on the radio, and from what I was hearing, it sounded like they weren't playing so poorly. How did they look? Did they actually look okay?
They started out great, but it's the 60 minutes of hockey that we seem to yet to be able to put together. There's only, honestly, has there been any game other than a couple this season that we played from the first whistle to the last horn solid all the way through?
I can't name one off the top of my head, Doc. But if we look at this is a continuing trend of fast starts and poor finishes. Last game against Calgary, we had a 3-0 lead and almost spoiled it, but we still got the W. But we had poor starts earlier in the year and come back with strong finishes, and it looks like, I think anyway, that it's safer to say that this team looks more comfortable with playing from behind or catching up and stuff like that. And, I'd take poor finishes as long as we get a W at the end of the game. But if you got to start strong, you got to finish strong at the same time.
Well, they know how to finish strong, so it's kind of like the reverse cycle where we're starting off strong, we're finishing poorly. Before we were starting poor and then we were finishing strong. So I think if they could just get that cohesion, play that full 60 minutes, it's going to help us. It's a long season. It's only December. We have till April.
And we're still fourth in the league, and third in the West.
The sky's not falling yet.
No, it's not.
Sure.
I mean, the search for consistency is that's one of the hockey buzzwords. That's the thing that every coach talks about when they're talking about their team. It's like, we need to be consistent, play a consistent game through a full 60 minutes, play consistently from game to game. And that's really the mark of what makes a good player, is somebody who can play consistently regardless of the situation. You know what you're going to get out of that guy. And the Blues still have not achieved any kind of consistency. That's a thing that we would hope we would see from this group. And we still haven't. We still don't know what team's going to show up from game to game. And we don't.
Well, at least our goal.
We don't know who's going to show up from game to game or from period to period, really. Which group of players.
And I don't want to make excuses, but the constant injuries, the constant line shuffling. It's hard to build chemistry when you're battling all those factors. You have a Stevie Ott out. Berglund's been out. You've had a barrage of players out over the entire season. So it's hard to build that chemistry and retain that chemistry when you have all those factors in play.
I also think. Go ahead.
I will say too, there was an article out today that was put out in the STL today, talking about talking to Hitch, talking to players about some of the consistency issues, the is Hitch hard to play for? Is the line shuffling an issue? And in the article, it kind of brought up the fact that if you look at a lot of other teams, they do the same thing. There is a lot of line shuffling. It's just since we're so focused on the Blues, we don't see that as much from the other teams or pay attention to it. But it's not all that uncommon. But you think we could at least establish some of the lines with just minor tweaking, and maybe once we get some of these injuries back after the first of the year, looks like Berglund is almost any day now. And that I think would be good to see. The biggest thing is getting the right group that can be solid all the way through, because it's just a lot of mistakes are still getting made, and we're in mid-December. I mean, almost late December now. We shouldn't be making some of the stupid mistakes that we're making. The giveaways, the miscues. There just seems to be a lot of that yet, and that I would have hoped would have been figured out by about end of November.
I think if there's one consistency that the Blues have, if you can count off the top of your head right now, how many games has it been that goaltenders have lost us games? Count off the top of your head that you can recall. Because I certainly can't. Jake Allen and Brian Elliott have been giving the Blues a chance to win each and every game. However, the lack of scoring and even the lack of defense have been inconsistent as well. Like David said, and Johnny said as well.
The last bad goalie game that I remember was Elliott letting up
against Chicago.
Against Chicago, yeah,
exactly.
But other than that, our goalies have been sensational.
Absolutely, and it's to say it's a goaltender problem, it really isn't. We haven't had a goaltender problem since maybe, I guess, since Ryan Miller. Is that bad to say? But
I'd say Elliott's meltdown year might be on that list, but he rebounded, so he's been great since.
I think that's the thing that most Blues fans can say is that we're all just super happy to see the kind of steps that Allen's taken this year. You know, I mean, it's just great to see, and if he can just maintain what he's doing moving forward, if the rest of the team can actually build some consistency in front of him, then I'll have a lot more faith in this team moving forward.
Yeah, and our defense has been really inconsistent, but there's two players on our D that have been consistent. I've said it many times: Parayko and Gunnarsson. Even though they're paired together, I really wish that with the style of play that Hitchcock said at the beginning of the year, as sure as any other Blues fan as well, Bortuzzo would be playing more. I think that really ticks me off, and it should tick him off that he's not playing either. How do you feel about that, David?
How do I feel about Bortuzzo?
How do you feel about Bortuzzo?
How do I feel about Bortuzzo? You know, Johnny might actually remember a discussion we had about Bortuzzo whenever he was first traded to the Blues. Do you remember this, Johnny? Do you remember?
Jog my memory.
Okay. We were discussing how Bortuzzo's physical presence was going to be an upgrade on Ian Cole, who we traded for Bortuzzo. And there was a discussion about how it would be great to have that physical presence if we saw the Blackhawks in the playoffs, because a guy like Shaw wouldn't just be able to, hang out in front of the net, or Bickle wouldn't just be able to hang out in front of the net and do his thing. And my response was, oh, that's fine. They won't have to. They'll just skate around him and just put a shot right on goal. I've never really been impressed with Bortuzzo's mobility. I like the fact that he plays a tough game, he plays a physical game, but I don't think he needs a whole lot more playing time than he's getting. I think that's one of the only things that I'm really happy with the way Hitch has done this year is I think he's actually managed the D pretty well. I think the guys are getting about the right time they need. I think that's sending Edmondson down when they did was the right thing to do. I think that giving Parayko the time I heard, again, I didn't listen to the game tonight. I heard it on the radio, but I believe there was a point at the end whenever they were trying to bring out the extra attacker that Pietrangelo was throwing a temper tantrum on the bench because Parayko was playing instead of him. And I'm sorry, Pietrangelo, but Parayko's going to be the guy in that situation because he's produced more than you have.
And he's shown coming in for somebody that they didn't think really would make the Blues out of training camp. He's come in and from day one has shown he deserves to be here. His positioning's been fantastic. His work ethic's been great. He's putting up good numbers, and he's one of those guys that is always there when they need him. And for somebody, like I said, that they didn't think would even make the team, that's the kind of guys we need. And I think Pietrangelo has become he's. I mean, I don't know what's in his head for sure, but he seems to be kind of that guy that just expects. He's one of the top tier players, and honestly, it sure as hell doesn't feel like it this year.
I completely agree, Doc. In terms of Parayko, it's going to sound as cliche as it sounds, but he reminds me of a lot like Al McInnes in a way, not just because of the heavy shot that he has, but when he's out there, he's very calm, he's very cool, he's collected, he's cool under the pressure, like David said. When he scored that highlight goal against Ramo against Calgary, there was no showboating. He was calm, cool, and collected. He just celebrated. He put his hands up in the air and he goes and celebrates with his teammates. No showboating. He had no.
Just a little fist bump.
Little fist bump. Al McInnes didn't do much. All he did was put his stick up in the air and then bring it back down and then fist bump. To me, he could be really. He resembles a lot like Al McInnes. He's really calm. He's cool. From what I remember of Al McInnes, he wasn't a showboaty guy.
That specific goal, that little highlight reel goal that Parayko scored against Calgary, I think the most important thing to note about that one was the defenseman that he walked was not just some chump. No, but that was TJ Brody. All right. Parayko made Brody look really bad. Parayko walked Brody and then threw in this impossible backhand shot. Like, Brody is good.
Yeah.
That's a good
He's probably He's their second best defenseman on their team behind Giordano.
I would argue that he's probably the better player than Giordano at this point.
Okay.
But what does that? Okay, aside of that note too is thinking about that particular play from that game. What does that also show about Parayko? That he's not just a guy that will sit at the point and rip that massive shot he has. He can get up close, use his hands, and make some hellacious goals and be able to cycle in close to the net, it shows he's an all-around range player, and that's the kind of stuff we need.
And, I was fortunate enough to be at the game on Saturday, and the place was just going nuts when Parayko scored. I mean, it was just a phenomenal effort, and, I think fans get excited because we really haven't had one of those pivotal type of defensemen since McInnes or since Pronger. So seeing that out of Parayko was pretty special.
And Eric Johnson was supposed to be the guy, so was Pietrangelo. Now Pietrangelo is getting passed up by Parayko, and Johnson was passed up for Shattenkirk.
Well,
I think it's all hilarious.
I think Johnson was passed up for Pietrangelo. I mean, it was the emergence of Pietrangelo and the fact that he made the team out of camp unexpectedly and then played as well as he did that led to them trading Eric Johnson. It had less to do with Shattenkirk because remember, Shattenkirk wasn't on the team at that point.
True, but he was having a good rookie year.
He was
when he was traded.
Absolutely was. I don't know. We are blessed with a very solid defense. I mean, as much as we'll complain, we'll find those mistakes that the defense makes. And we'll harp on them and we'll magnify them because that's what we do. We're fans and we find all the little mistakes and we nitpick the living hell out of them. Even with all of that, this team is still unbelievable defensively. It has one of the most solid defensive cores in the league, and I think we are just ridiculously blessed to see this particular group play, and especially when you consider some of the players, the young players that are still coming up. I mean, Parayko has just come out of nowhere and he's just taken over. Edmondson is probably going to improve still as well. He's still young. He's got places to go and room to grow. But then we also have guys like Schmaltz, who Lord knows when he's going to have some time to play with all the depth we have on the right side now. Is he ever going to get a chance? Anyone?
I think he could be trade bait because our defensive depth is so deep, like you said, and even with our. He could be trade bait, as much as we hate to say it, but I read these articles all the time in the lounge. Trade bait for Stamkos, Malkin, Johansson, none of which I agree with personally. But if you want to go with after Stamkos or getting Malkin, you're going to have to dangle one of our defensemen and we have a lot of defensemen, which probably 28 or 29 other teams in the league are looking at and say, okay, if I want to go with a trade with somebody, it's St. Louis because everybody needs defensemen. Everybody needs a better defenseman upgrade.
Okay, let's broach this subject because we keep seeing it come up. Do any of you guys really think that there'll be a trade for either one of those two. Because, I mean, the more I see come out every day, most people are saying it's not going to happen. If it does, it'll be there could maybe at the end of the season, but nobody believes, or most people don't believe that either one of those cases we're going to land those guys, if at all. And if we do, nothing will happen until the end of the year.
I think it's stupid to go after Johansson, personally. The other two are either way. I can care less, but I think it's stupid to go after Johansson.
Why? Why is it stupid?
Somebody brought it up in the lounge the other day. Paul Clemens. He talked about how he wanted. He said he wanted to go after Johansson. I said, okay, you want Johansson, you got him. Who are you going to give him up? He's like, oh, we can give him a first rounder. If we give him a first rounder, that's going to hamstring the organization. That's 2 seasons in a row. The Blues don't get a first round pick. You realize that? 2 seasons in a row with a defenseman. And Johansson's not even in the top 30, not even the top 30 in the points, not even leads his team in goals, assists, or points either. To me, he would do better on a team that's poor than a team that's good.
I mean, the counter to that argument was, what was Tyler Seguin doing in Boston before he was traded to Dallas? You know, and I'm not saying that Johansson's the same player. Johansson's the same player that Seguin is. I mean, I think that Tyler Seguin's a much better player. But what I mean, could you really say that it was if you go back to Dallas before they traded for Seguin, would it have been a foolish move for them to trade for him because he was not doing well on his team at that point in time in Boston? I mean, that could be the same kind of situation with somebody trading for Johansson right now. Johansson's not doing well in Columbus, and because some of that might be coaching, some of that might just be situation. He might just be having an off season. Who knows? But if he were to go somewhere else,
coaching issue has to do.
Would he?
Yeah, some players just need a change of scenery.
Yeah, I mean, could Johansson leave Columbus and end up, pushing forward the same way the Seguin did when he got out of Boston?
I think that Johansson will end up leaving Columbus. I do believe that. However, because he has an issue, and they're not going to fire Tortorella. They're not. They just hired him.
Yeah.
He was doing good away from that. Away from Tortorella. He was doing all right. He was an all-star last year, even though the home voting helped. But he's a good guy.
But is it what we need?
It is not what we need.
What do we need?
We need a finisher, not a playmaker. We have plenty of playmakers.
I don't know. I've always thought, the one piece that I've always thought that was missing from this team was a legit number one center. I mean, like, you don't generally win a Stanley Cup without one of two things. You either have to have a completely game-breaking offensive center who can absolutely run your offense and be the pivot and is reliable in whatever offensive situation you're in. Or if you don't have that guy, you need a world-class goaltender. Like, Boston, when they won, they didn't have that center, but they had the world-class goaltender.
Tim Thomas.
Tim Thomas was playing like an absolute maniac.
And Quick.
But every other team, well, yeah, John Quick as well. Whenever LA was playing there, but LA also had that guy in Kopitar. When Kopitar was like the years that LA won the cup, Kopitar was playing like a maniac as well. The guy was out of his mind.
Kopitar was a winger.
But teams, what?
He's a winger. No, he's not. Never mind. Take it back.
What the hell are you talking about, Sean?
My bad.
It's late. Sean's confused.
I'm confused, everybody.
But no, I mean that's like teams don't win the Stanley Cup without either that completely game-breaking world-class goaltender or that completely game-breaking world-class center. It's like the teams that win the cup. Chicago has Jonathan Toews as a center. Like prior to them, we had Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. We had Kopitar in LA. I mean, these guys, these are all game-breaking centers. These are guys who completely run their system or completely run their teams. The Blues don't have that guy. We've got a lot of guys who are good, but we don't have the game breaker. But Johansson has the potential to be that game breaker for some team somewhere. So if Armstrong can find a way to get a Johansson, or if Stamkos leaves Tampa and has some way to get a Stamkos, or if one of Crosby or Malkin leaves Pittsburgh and Armstrong can find some way to get one of those guys, then I think he has to do it. Because I think this team is still missing that top center, and I think until we get that guy, I don't think we're gonna go far.
You know, do you think if we get into a position where we can acquire Stamkos, I mean, do you really think it's going to be beneficial in the long run? I mean, we're either going to give up a lot, and if we give up a lot, you're going to want to sign him, because otherwise, if he walks in July, you gave up all that for nothing.
It'd definitely be wiser to be a rental other than a signer.
I think Stamkos is going to be the exception in this issue because he will be the rental. All right, because if you pick up Stamkos, you're getting him for this season, and then he's going to do whatever he wants in free agency, and Lord knows where he's going to go. So I would not be willing to pay as much for Stamkos as I would for, say, you know, if you could manage to squeeze a Malkin or a Crosby out of Pittsburgh, if they decide to let one of them go. Those guys would demand so much, and you'd have to meet that. But you could probably have Stamkos a little bit cheaper just because he will be a rental. So yeah, I mean, if you can get Stamkos without completely destroying your farm system and giving up all of your picks and gutting your defense, then I think you should try to. Yeah,
I agree with you, David, on that. With being a rental on Stamkos,
it's got to be the right deal. It's got to be the right fit because I mean, okay, so we get a rental player, but if you've devastated your team, then you're completely screwed for several years to come.
Yeah, which is.
And I guess the other side of it is too, is we come to trade deadline and don't make many moves. Are people going to flip out over that? My God, we didn't go after anybody or whatever. But sometimes it comes down to the worth versus benefit. Is if we're going to pay an ass ton of money to rent somebody, it's not worth doing, because at least with this, other than depending on what we do in the playoffs this year, is the team is up in points. I mean, we're still doing well. If we can maintain that, and with getting Berglund back at the beginning of the year, or almost any day now, and some of those kind of things, we may be in a much better spot. Because, I mean, Berglund sat out half the year, other than getting up to speed with whoever he's going to be playing with. He's going to be rested. He's not going to have that being tired thing behind him, and he might come out just balls to the wall.
You're also forgetting about a player that's been injured since October or November, and it's Jaden Schwartz,
Yes.
And
everybody loves him.
And also, David, for the record, that player you said, Kopitar, in my mind I was thinking Dustin Brown. That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah, that's a very different player, John.
I know, but that's who I was thinking of in my mind.
Different
I know. But
no, Jaden Schwartz.
Jaden Schwartz. You know, he does everything. He hustles. He can play on the power play. He can play on the penalty kill. He can back check. He can play anywhere on the ice. He can play against anybody. He can generate turnovers. He could what the team's missing. Like, David, you really like this guy as well. I think he's the glue to the team.
Yeah, we discussed that at one point in time. Not on the podcast here, but you and I discussed that. I very firmly believe that Jaden Schwartz is actually the best player on the St. Louis Blues. At least the best forward. And that's saying quite a bit when we have this guy on our team named Vladimir Tarasenko, who's like one of the league leaders in goals and is just this amazing all-around offensive dynamo. I think Jaden Schwartz is the best player on the team. He's by far the most complete player on the team. I think, and I think that if Jaden Schwartz were, like 4 inches taller, he would have gone first or second overall with his skill set, with his ability. He's not a big guy. If he were bigger, he would probably have gone much higher in the draft. Dropped to 14 for the Blues. It's unreal.
Beat Tarasenko as well.
And let's talk Tarasenko's numbers really quick here. He is a leader. He's tied for 4th with points at 37. Mm-hmm. He's tied for 2nd in goals at 21, tied with Patrick Kane. Mm-hmm. He is he's just up there, and he looks solid, but maybe with some guys coming back and things, his number can get even better. And then you've got Allen from the goaltender side, tied for fourth with 15 wins, tied for second with shutouts, just below Crawford at 4. I mean, when we've got guys on our team that are league leaders in things, that shows a lot too. But it's just getting the cohesion and getting everybody trucking at the same level, and we see flashes of that. But if we could just be going back to the whole being consistent, if we could get everybody at that same level, God, imagine where we'd be. And I mean, I'm not happy or not unhappy with our standings, but my fear is by the time we get to the end of the season, are we going to be able to maintain this? And this getting lucky or these close games, yeah, it's okay if you drop one or two of those games now, but in the playoffs you start doing that, you're screwed.
I agree.
I've left everybody speechless with that, I guess. It's just we've still got a tough month. I mean, there's not a lot of month left, but we've still got Tuesday being tomorrow. We play the Bruins at 6. Saturday the 26th, we get a couple days off. We're playing the Stars.
Merry Christmas.
And Sunday we play them home and home series, and then Tuesday we're Nashville. Nashville's here. And then the 31st, we've got the Wild, and they catch 1 day break, and then they're in Toronto. So we've got still a lot of hockey to play, and I'm just hoping that we can maintain, even if we stay where we're at currently in the league. I'm perfectly happy with that, but it's just the on ice productivity has me concerned about getting into a 7-game series with the team.
No, I'm just worried about the scoring at this current moment in time. I think we're in the bottom half in scoring. I think it's like 2.2 goals a game. I think we're 17th or 18th out of 30. And we're kind of heavily relying on a Tarasenko to score. David Backes and Steen have been chipping in as well, but you need that game changer. You need that game breaker that will, guarantee score you a goal, like a Patrick Kane. It's a little out of reach, I think, but we'll see what happens by the trade deadline.
I think, Johnny, you make a good point. How we have, Alexander Steen and David Backes chipping in as well. But right now we're relying a lot on Tarasenko with our offense, and give him credit. He's been giving us timely goals because he's been giving us very clutch goals, big clutch goals when we need them, and they're winning games. We aren't scoring many goals, but we're getting clutch goals from Tarasenko and those 3 that you named. So our defense has been strong. Our goaltenders have been keeping us in the game, but our defense could definitely be stronger. But at the same time, it's also a weak point. But we're still winning hockey games. That's the bottom line. So even if we're not scoring a lot, we're getting goals when we need them, which is good. But yeah, we need a game breaker, like you said, because right now I believe we're relying too much on Tarasenko to be a game breaker. And while he has been putting the goals up on the board, we need other sources from scoring, not just from Alexander Steen or David Backes. We need defensemen scoring as well. And right now, Parayko's leading our team defensemen in goals. Parayko, a rookie. No disrespect to Parayko, but come on, we need our veterans chipping in from the blue line.
We would all like to see more goals from everybody, but I'll be satisfied with our defensive performance as long as they're putting up points. I'm not going to be worried about the number of goals they score, as long as they're helping run the offense and putting up assists. It's like, I love seeing goals. I love seeing guys throwing those big bombs from the point whenever we get them. But just as long as you're contributing, as long as you keep the puck moves forward and you feed it to somebody who can put it in the net, I'm not gonna worry too much.
When's the last time we got a bomb from the point?
Oh man, how long has it been? What was the last time?
It's been a while. Parayko? Against Calgary? At Calgary?
Was it?
I don't know.
Oh, Johnny, do
I
you
feel
remember? A really solid bomb from the point. Do you remember the last good one we had?
Good grief.
Al McInnes? Hello?
Wow.
I don't think it's been that long.
Yeah.
No, it's been that long.
Barrett Jackman's clapper from the point against Chicago.
Oh, man. Because, yeah, even most of Parayko's goals have been, like, they haven't been bombs from the point. They've been, he pinches in at the right time and gets one from the
He missed the
circle.
net against the Ducks, and it bounced off the boards back in the goalie's legs and into the net. That was a big bomb.
But we deserve to get some of those weird puck bounces because we've been burnt so many times on that kind of stuff. We deserve to get some more of that. And it's nice to see Parayko's a plus 14.
Mm-hmm.
And it is. I mean, even just firing those in where we can get rebounds and get the guys up front picking up that garbage to get stuff in. But I just want us to keep on that and okay, so say we decide we want to ditch somebody and try and pick up somebody else. Is Pietrangelo one of the guys that goes?
I think Bouwmeester would be more.
But Bouwmeester's,
No one's going to take the contract.
That's
exactly.
There's no way. It's
Pietrangelo
too lengthy and it's too much.
Yeah,
For
Pietrangelo
what-
has way more value
Pietrangelo-
in trade.
okay.
What were you saying, Sean?
Say that again. You cut out a little bit.
I don't have the information in front of me, but I do remember that. From what I can remember, I believe Pietrangelo is being paid as much as Stastny is, and Stastny's getting $7 million a year.
No, I think Petro gets 6.5 if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yeah, I said around, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that's correct. Petro's contract is 6.5 average over the course.
How much is
of the-
Bouwmeester getting?
Around that, 6 or 6.5.
No, I thought Bouwmeester was getting 5.5. Let's look this up.
Yeah, Pietrangelo this year's making, 15-16's making 6.5. So he's in a contract till 1920, the 1920 season that ends out at $7.5 million. For the next 3 after this year, it'll be $7 million, and then 7.5, and he becomes unrestricted the 2021 year. So he's going to be hanging around a while.
Do you hate Dangle Shattenkirk, the good defenseman on our power play? The most stable defenseman on our power play, if not Parayko?
What do you get in return?
Stamkos.
I would not trade Shattenkirk for Stamkos. Not at this point. Not for a rental. I think in a vacuum.
Okay, not for rental.
In a vacuum, I think the value is there, but I think the contract has got to be considered. And I think that's. I think the Blues would have to add something to get Stamkos in a vacuum. When we're just talking pure value. But yeah, I mean, with the contract and the fact that Stamkos is going to be a rental, you're going to be trading one of your best young defensemen that's on a pretty agreeable contract moving forward for a guy that you're going to be paying several $1 million to as a rental for a few months, then he's gone.
Yeah.
Would I trade Chet?
They don't have the money to
Stamkos?
re-sign him.
Not straight up, no. I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, looking at
isn't happy.
Bouwmeester's contract was a 5-year, $27 million contract.
So just a little over.
First year was
5.5.
First year was 14-15. He ends at last year of his contract will be 2018-2019 at 5.4. And at that point, I mean, at the end of his contract, he's going to be 35 years old.
I think that in general, Blues fans would be very surprised to see the kind of value that Pietrangelo would actually have in a trade. I think that people would be very surprised by that. And I'm not quite sure why this is just a thing that I've seen. I don't quite get it why Blues fans just seem to not put as much value in a guy like Pietrangelo as they do in a guy like Shattenkirk. I just don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, Pietrangelo is the more solid defenseman at least in my opinion, he is. He's the guy that you rely on him a little bit more in those difficult situations. You give him the most difficult assignments, and you expect him to shut down the other team's top players, and he does it really well. He does it just as well as anybody else in the league does.
It's interesting that you make that note, because Parayko's, while he's a third-line defenseman, he hasn't really seen as much of the other team stars as he has versus Pietrangelo. But I do remember he did play 3-on-3 against Chicago, against Taves, Seabrook, and Kane in 3-on-3, and faced a 3-on-1 against them and was able to still shut them down in overtime. That's the only time that I can remember Parayko having that, but that still is very impressive. Taves, Kane, and Seabrook in 3-on-3, 3-on-1, and he's able to shut them down. That was really impressive. And he got the puck out, so got the line change, and the Blues scored right on the next play when he got that puck out, which is what he's done very well. He's able to get the puck out, win the pucks in our zone, along with Gunnarsson. That's why they're plus-minus, because they're able to generate offensive scoring chances. They get the puck out of the zone quickly and are able to generate scoring chances. What do you... No. You disagree with that?
Oh, no, I don't disagree with that.
Oh, okay.
Do you think I disagree with that?
Oh, no,
So
I'm seeing you on the video.
So I guess,
You're just
I guess
misunderstanding
is
my
there?
facial expression here. So.
Yeah, no problem.
I guess the question is,
Founders are
really,
trying video for the first time.
Yes.
who do we, if we want to get rid of anybody to make whatever trade, what players are on your chopping block?
As much as I hate to
Is there many?
Fabry, as much as I hate to say it. Same
Ratty, maybe.
Ratty as well. As much as I hate to say it, Fabry, because the same way we got Shattenkirk was a budding defenseman in Colorado, and I'm sure they didn't want to part ways with him, but they got Eric Johnson now. You're going to have to dangle the big rookie names, and it's unfortunate.
If it were me, anybody who is not named Tarasenko, Schwartz, or Parayko is on the block. Make offers. It doesn't mean I'm going to accept whatever offer.
I could agree with that.
But I'll entertain offers for pretty much anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that if you can make the right moves with that, without gutting the team to the point where it doesn't work correctly, because you can't just rely on those guys, I guess that does make sense to go that way.
Would you include Jake Allen in that as well, with the goaltenders? Well, Brian Elliott would be, but would you include Jake Allen?
I would include Jake Allen on the term that there would be another goaltender of at least the same value coming back. I mean, the only reason that would ever happen is if there were like a contract thing that somebody wanted to deal with. If there was a problem with money on the other end, something like that. Like I would be willing to trade Allen if I could get a goaltender of at least the equivalent ability at the same age coming back. Is there another goaltender at the same age with the same ability as Jake Allen anywhere in the league? I don't know if that's even a thing that makes any kind of sense, because I'm not sure that guy's out there. So I guess technically, no, I wouldn't. there wouldn't be even be any point in discussing it. No, Allen is off limits as well. Sorry.
How old is Braden Holtby?
How old's Braden Holtby?
Good.
Yeah.
God, good luck even attempting to get him.
Yeah.
You'd lose way too much.
I agree, but I just wanted to know, because he brought him up earlier. He's playing very well, and to me, from what I've seen with him, it's just very interesting conversation. Obviously, I don't think I'd trade Allen. I would never trade Allen personally.
Braden Holtby is 26 years old apparently,
and Allen is 25, 24.
Yeah. How old is Allen? 25. Yeah, it's 25. Allen's 25.
Yeah, I think we'll be. I believe that's right. I think he'll be around a while.
25.
Yeah.
But I guess the big thing is too is Elliott. Does Elliott hang around a little bit more, or is he try to get out either at trade deadline or at the end of the year, just because he keeps getting kicked to the backup role?
I don't think the Blues are in any position to get rid of any one of our goalies, especially Elliott, just because of the fact that we need a quality backup. I mean, who are you going to bring up? Phoenix Copley, Bennington, going in the playoffs, let's say Allen goes down first round, second round, you're screwed. There's just no way you could take that chance. In my opinion.
Agree with that. Yeah.
It's a similar situation many years ago with the Detroit Red Wings. They had Chris Osgood and Mike Vernon in 96 and 95 and 97 when they won the Cup. Chris Osgood was very funny. But Chris Osgood was the guy in 94, and then they didn't feel confident in him until they went with Mike Vernon in 95. And Mike Vernon got them to the Stanley Cup Finals against the New Jersey Devils, whom they were swept by. And then in the postseason 96, Vernon played a few games, and then again after Game 3 against the St. Louis Blues in the second round, he was pulled, and that's when Chris Osgood took the reins. And Chris Osgood ran away with it. And at the beginning of the 97 playoffs, Chris Osgood was the guy in charge, and he had a poor performance. And then in comes Mike Vernon, who ends up winning the Conn Smythe Trophy at the end of the playoffs when they win. So we need that stable backup.
Well, let's just throw out that
add your point, Johnny.
We don't even have to go back to the 90s to talk about this. Let's talk about last year with the Boston Bruins. Last season, the Boston Bruins went into the season with Tuukka Rask as their starter and nothing. They did not have a legitimate backup all season, and that meant that Tuukka Rask was playing every damn game. Maybe not every game, but and that led to some really unfortunate situations. Like they brought up Malcolm Subban to start last season against the Blues. That was Malcolm Subban's first game in St. Louis against the Blues, and he got his ass lit up.
Yep.
And that's not what you want to do with your rookie goaltender when you used a pretty decent first round pick on him. It's like this is the situation that they were in because they did not sign a decent backup. The Boston did not have a decent backup last season, and they overworked Rask, and he was mad at the organization. He was mad about how much he had to play, and they broke a couple of young rookie goaltenders that probably needed a little more time to develop in the younger leagues, the lower leagues, before they got thrown to the Wolves in the NHL. That's the kind of thing that happens when you do not sign a good quality backup goaltender when you don't have that guy around.
And they barely missed the playoffs. It came down all the way to the last game. I'm actually in one of the Boston Bruin groups, and it came down to like the last period, and they ended up losing the game. I don't remember who they played, but the fans weren't happy. It's kind of interesting to get a different perspective on how fans perceive their team and how they interact and stuff. But yeah, it was not a happy day in Boston at all.
Oh no!
And in other words, he took a dump, is what you're saying.
Basically.
But so what? I guess we're almost through December. What do we expect to see out of the team in the next month? With the schedule that we have, do we see them climbing up? We're near the top now. Do we see them staying put, climbing up a little bit, or is there a risk they slide back?
It'd be interesting to see when the injured players come back.
I think we either tread water or we move slowly ahead. I don't see us going back. Not with Schwartz coming back, not with Berglund coming back. I don't. If you're moving back at that point, there's something seriously wrong.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that wholeheartly. That was going to be almost my exact response. If this team gets these injured players back and then they still regress, if I made it clear that I'm a total Jaden Schwartz fanboy, if he comes back and the team regresses with his addition, then there are much, much bigger problems. I just don't see it happening. This team is either going to stay where they are or they're moving forward.
I agree. Completely.
Now, any game predictions for this weekend? We've got just a few going into the Christmas break.
I will make a prediction that with the home and home against Dallas, I'm not sure which team will win, but whoever does win, they'll win both games of the home and home.
Well, and we played Philly tonight and lost with some bad mistakes, 4-3. We've got Boston tomorrow. Do the Blues regroup and just come out and beat up on them, or is it going to be a really sluggish start and a very disorganized team?
That's a really good question.
In their best interest, it'll be good for them to come out swinging hard. This was embarrassing. It was an embarrassing loss tonight. They had the 3-0 lead. There's really no excuse for losing that game. it happens. I get it. We did it to Toronto years ago, came back 5-0 in the third period, ended up winning 6-5. But, you can't lose those games. You can't, with all the pressure that's going on, the fans want the team to succeed. They want them to prosper. They want them to play their 60 minutes. And this game, it was unacceptable. So I guarantee they will play at least a 50-minute game tomorrow night.
I think it's a 50-minute game. That's wow.
At least 50 minutes.
Here's the thing: they got to have a fast start, and I know I harped on them earlier in the show for saying they don't start fast, but they have to. They're in a back-to-back game, and usually back-to-back games have a faster start and a slower finish. It's important that they got to get a big lead on early because they're going to be dog tired by the end of the game, even if it goes to overtime.
Yeah, I don't have anything beyond that. Sorry. That's all I got.
You disagree with me, don't you, David?
A lot of it's just the inconsistencies. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to guess what's really going to happen.
Yeah.
But with these 5 games coming up, they don't have the luxury to be inconsistent. They have to play good. I mean, you got some pretty hard-hitting teams and some, top-tier teams coming up. You can't afford to play lackadaisical. You can't. And going in the new year, if you're dropping 3 and 4 out of 5 games, that's going to kill your confidence.
I agree.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll discuss a lot more of what happened this week when we hit our next one next Monday. We, if you guys have not noticed or missed the beginning of this show, we are changing up the Rinkside Podcast some, so it's not just me and Sean rambling. It's the ramblings of 4 crazy Blues fans. Me, Sean, David, and Johnny. So, but it does. This show's been fantastic. We've had a lot more perspectives, a lot more things. Each of us are seeing things a little bit differently. And that's what will make this podcast going forward even better. Is it's not just a two-sided affair. We may all yell and scream at each other as this season progresses. Any final thoughts for the evening, gentlemen?
I'd like to tip my hat to our founding father, Johnny, for posting the sad face photos in the lounge, and it just caught fire.
That's fantastic.
I heard it wasn't as popular other places, but that's for another time.
If you upset the established order, everything becomes chaos.
Well, we had to have a little humor after tonight's game.
Oh yeah.
You almost can't even be mad. You just gotta roll it off and laugh about it and move on.
As embarrassing as it was.
Yeah, I mean, this is not us losing to Chicago in Game 6 or something, or Minnesota rather. This is a regular season game. It's okay.
Against an Eastern Conference opponent, which really means they're not really getting points on us, but
it's still points we're leaving on the table, though.
It's true.
Points that would have put us ahead of Chicago.
Free points.
It's gonna do.
Well, let's hope maybe we'll see what they do tomorrow and these next couple games, and we will revisit all this and very much more next Monday night. It is the Rinkside Podcast. Doc Noyes, Sean Ditch, David, and Johnny wishing you guys all a good Christmas. Hopefully everybody gets all the Blue stuff that they want, and wishing the Blues a lot of wins.
My birthday.
Oh, you're a Christmas baby, Sean?
Yes, I am.
Oh, man.
I sure am.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Oh, yes, it is definitely. It's a double-edged sword, that's for sure.
How is it a double-edged sword? No, explain that. How is it a double-edged sword?
We can talk about that on a later show.
I mean, a double-edged sword implies that there are positives and negatives to this. I can only see negatives. I can only see negatives to having your birthday coinciding with a gifting holiday. Because Christmas is a holiday that's about gifting.
If we're going to talk about this right now, we're going to need 10 more minutes for the show.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you that right now. We'll do it next. We'll do it next show. Screw it.
Happy Christmas, everybody. I think I'm getting a Laterra jersey. I'm not sure yet. We'll see.
thought you weren't sport.
I will wear that Dan Laterra jersey with pride.
Well, hopefully everybody gets all the blue stuff that they want for Christmas. You guys have a great time. Enjoy the podcast. We'll see you on the next one.
Let's go Blues.
Watch me light the sky. Watch me light the sky.
Unbelievable play. Holy jumping. Front, Perron is open.